All right, we're back with NoKFaving.com. Ox Baker finale. Okay, what do you want to be remembered for?
Ox Baker, I could say I want to be noted for being in the wrestling business. I could be known as one of the great talkers of all times. But I really want to be known as one of the guys that really appreciated and always admired his fans. And I would like to give them a big applause at this time for the many things they did for me over the years. The one that took me in and fed me for a free meal, the ones that would give me pencils, and the ones would pick me up along the side of the road and take me to the matches. I want to be known as a guy that always loved his wrestling fan, and even today when I go to the shows, anybody that I joke with, and I joke with a lot of people, when I'm joking with you, that means I like you, and I like all my wrestling fans.
No doubt. All right, how do you feel about people that say wrestling is fake?
Well, wrestling, when they say that it's fake, I just want you to go like I went to Stu Hart's dungeon in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and for a half hour I screamed and farted and threw up, right?
Why?
Because he was torturing me. They have shoot holds in wrestling.
He said he was torturing me.
Oh, yes. He tortured guys for 35 years.
Yeah,
More guys screamed in his basement than anything, right?
So he tortured you too?
But the idea is, believe me when I tell you this one thing. They've had 90 to 200 matches with boxers, karate guys with wrestlers, and the wrestlers won every time. Right? So whether you want to say fake, maybe we didn't hurt each other the way we should have because we were smart enough to know we had to wrestle every night, right? But what we did, we give the people a chance to be entertained. And I want to tell you the greatest thrills of my life when a can would hit me upside the head during a match because I knew I was giving their fans enough that they got mad at me. Whether it was fake or not, that can upside of my head wasn't fake. And I loved it every night I got one of them. And like I said, in 40 years, you can check the record, Ox Baker never laid his hand on a fan.
Can you speak on the George Hackenschmidt Frank Gotch feud?
Well, when they talk about changing wrestling around, you have to remember at the time George Hackenschmidt was the toughest man in all of Europe. He was known as the Russian Lion. And here we had this little Iowa farm boy, Frank Gotch. And they got together, and I believe they had the first $1 million house in the history of wrestling.
Really?
Because all the people loved the Russian Lion, they loved Frank Gotch, and they put wrestling on the map. They only wrestled 2 times in their career, but when the Russian Lion went back, he had a broken leg. Because years later, Kurt Angle, when they asked him what hold did they want to be a finishing hold, he said, I want Frank Gotch toe hold. And that's what he had, made him the world champion. Here he was the first, in all the wrestling history, the first guys ever voted into the Wrestling Hall of Fame is Frank Gotch.
Really?
They set wrestling on the map.
What year was that?
That was 1912.
Oh, really? You wasn't watching wrestling yet?
Huh?
You wasn't even born yet.
I wasn't even born yet. My dad wasn't even.
So how did you find out about them?
I've read all the wrestling books.
Really?
Yeah, from Frank Gotch, the Strangler Lewis, the Great Luthez, who I wrestled 20 or 30 times.
Really?
I followed their career.
How did you get information on them when you wasn't even born when they was wrestling?
Because if you pick up a wrestling magazine now, there'll be some story about Frank Gotch and the Russian Lion. And even in Japan, Ricky Dozan, been dead for 30 years, he's on the front page of all the wrestling because he was the first superstar in Japan, and they're still writing about it. And they'll keep writing about Gotch in the line as long, as there is wrestling.